Hey everybody, this is Swamp Cleaner Harry back with another late night stream for you. This one is going to be a little bit more concise, a little bit shorter than our last stream that was rambling on for hours upon hours, but we had some good discussions then. Tonight, if you guys can see already from the description, we are going to be talking about the same-sex marriage vote that's going to be happening in Australia very shortly. Everybody already knows that we have same-sex marriage passed in the United States and a lot of other countries in the world, so it's going to be a good discussion, both for it and against it. And we're also going to be talking about Hillary Clinton's new book coming out about what happened and who she's blaming for her election fails. But we have with us tonight, we have Insanity. She's back again for another round. And Chris Logic Media is going to be coming on shortly. He's just dealing with a little issue of his own, but he will be on to talk with us about what's happening in Australia. So right now we are going to jump into this calamity, this hilariousness of what is Hillary Clinton's new book called What Happened. So
she lost. That's what happened.
That's what happened. I've seen memes all over the internet, and one that was actually retweeted by Donald Trump himself that shows a book that shows her book saying what happened, and then it shows the same style of the cover of the book saying I happened with a picture of Donald Trump on it. It was hilarious. Pretty much, it was retweeted tens of thousands of times, and it's turning into a giant farce. And she is pretty much trying to ride that income wave to make sure that she can keep the coffers of the Clinton Foundation filled. So, what's your take on this Insanity? What do you think about this I'm going to say shit show of a book that she wrote?
This particular shit show. So you remember back when she lost to Obama, right? She went crazy then, and then you could see as the running was going on and things were getting more and more challenging for her over the course of this election, she was really starting to lose it. And she definitely snapped on election night.
Oh yeah.
If you were watching the DNC at all, you could see it. She was going nuts. I kind of thought she was going to stroke out there for a minute.
Well, you had different sources who were in the Clinton campaign and people in and outside the realm of sphere of influence with her, saying that she had a giant hissy fit on election night, and that's one of the reasons why she didn't come out to make a concession speech. Turns out when she had her, I don't know if you saw her interview with CBS the other day about her new book, she couldn't even fathom writing up a concession speech, so she didn't have anything ready. So that just shows the complete out of touch perspective she has, and how dang, well, the word just slips my mind, but the arrogance of her, and how she thought that this was going to be in the bag.
I followed the election so closely. I scrutinized everything, and it all looked like a joke. It looked like a clutch of kindergartners fighting behind the bleachers. It was terrible. There was no real way that Donald Trump should have won. Realistically, if he had been running against anyone who was even remotely sane and or competent, it wouldn't have happened.
Well,
he did, and that's a good thing. I completely support almost everything that he's done, with a couple of exceptions. He's been excellent. But she lives in this arrogant bubble where she was so certain that her pandering, that her fake statements and her lies and her almost blackmail over women trying to get us
personal attacks, ad hominems.
Absolutely. She was so sure that she had it locked down that there was no reality in which this could be happening.
Well, in the last 10 weeks of the campaign, she didn't campaign in any of the major states like Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Because her hubris was so intense that she was completely fed into the mainstream media garbage that she was running away with it and that she was going to win. It's hilarious to see that she blames one of the people on the list. She blames the mainstream media for all their negative coverage. Was she even paying attention to what the mainstream media was saying? They were buttering her up, and they were throwing Trump under the bus everywhere. But she took the actual semi fake news that was downplaying her scandals like email and the DNC collusion, which was actual factual stuff going on. The mainstream media was downplaying that to a very minor role, but she still blames them for them having all that coverage about her emails and her servers and how she was hacked or how she was colluding with the DNC. It's pretty pathetic.
It was just sad because the reality is everything was stacked up for her, and she lost because she sucks. She is arrogant. She is unapproachable. She is unrelatable. She is just this giant, fake, evil thing, and nobody was going to vote for that. Nobody who was sane was going to step behind that and say, yes, be our leader.
I mean, well, and I hear this all the time. I hear this all the time from Trumpers. I hear this from people who are in the DNC who voted for Hillary because she was the only candidate they could vote for. They said if Bernie was able to get on the ticket against Donald Trump and not get screwed over by the DNC and Hillary Clinton, he would have won the election. Because Bernie and Trump were actually a few running points that they were on were very similar to each other. It was just the difference between how big their government they wanted to have. And I fear that if it was Bernie Sanders that would have been able to run against Donald Trump, we would have President Bernie Sanders in the White House right now and pushing everybody to get that free health care for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem that centrists and Republicans saw with Bernie Sanders as a platform was that he's a socialist, clearly. Mm-hmm. And we are a capitalist nation. That is what pushes us forward. If we step away from that, we collapse, period. That's just what will happen. But yes, as far as the Democratic Party was concerned, he would have had the votes on lockdown. It would have been much closer.
And they had more. They had more gusto. There was more.
There was more force behind that.
Yeah, there was a lot more people who were fervently a feel the burn guy than I'm with her person. It was
by far.
And it was that disenfranchising of having all those people let down by the DNC, and then just the whole smugness and the just unlikability of Hillary Clinton, which allowed her to lose the election, plus them trying to throw a couple states and having a bunch of illegal voters vote and bump up their numbers. So
yeah, and I mean, even with all of that, she lost, and she lost because of herself. She can blame women, she can blame minorities, she can blame Trump, she can blame the Russians. The fact is, she lost because of herself.
One of the first lines in her book is, I screwed up. So as she said, so she can't, so 99.99% of the book is not 100% blaming everybody else. There was like one or two lines where she said, okay, I screwed up, or I could have done something better here, or something like that. But then after that, it was just a tirade on everybody else, just to deflect, and it was poor. It was completely emotional, judgmental, and it's because
her sitting down and going on basically a long Twitter rant.
Oh yes, that's exactly true. It was her election night blow up, just in continuance in word form on a piece of paper, and because some of the reports out from election night saying she was screaming Comey's name is at the top of her lung, and they had to sedate her. So I mean, those are all like unverified, but they come from very close sources to the Clinton campaign. So I mean, I would speculate that some of those claims are justifiably true. So.
Oh, I believe it. I completely believe it. She's unstable, and she has been unstable since about 3/4 of her way through the Obama run.
Well, you can look even further back when she was in the White House as the First Lady. There are reports of her snapping on people when she didn't get her way. She would throw things at some of the staff. She was completely unhinged even as the First Lady.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I mean, she's a power-hungry egomaniac with an insatiable appetite for control.
She is determined that she is going to be the first female president. Now, this is not true. She's not even the only woman who has run and lost.
Mm-hmm. And I love how and we talk about oh man, the Republican that slipped she's slipping my mind right now. Sorry?
Michelle Bachmann?
The CEO for HP. That was the former CEO of HP that she was running on the Republican ticket. Oh my God, her name slips my mind right now. But it's funny how if you're a conservative woman, that kind of like, nah, that's not going to be a real first president of the United States, because this conservative woman is just displaying the biases of the patriarchy or internalized misogyny and stuff. So they're not really for women, the conservative women. So we need a liberal woman because she truly understands what women want or what women are striving for in our society. So it's just kind of funny to see how they would attack this. No, I don't think so. I know her name is like right here on the top of my head, and I'll probably remember it as soon as we like move on to another subject.
Margaret Cushing Whitman was the former CEO of HP, and she's currently the
Hewlett Packard.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not. She was running as a Republican candidate last year. God dang.
I can visualize that face in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot pull up a name, so hold on, I'm going to figure it out.
I guess that's just our internalized misogyny, because we're forgetting her name. Chris is in the chat here. He just said that's internalized misogyny. You can't remember a woman's name? How dare you?
Right?
Yeah, I'd say like I would just type in like, I'm going to type it in right now, the female Republican candidate.
Fiorina?
Yeah, Carly Fiorina. Bang, there it is.
You're welcome.
Carly Fiorina. That is what was running. It's just funny to see the hypocrisy. Nicole, you're a misogynist. Chris has told us that you're a misogynist.
I am.
But
I'm also Satan and Hitler and a racist and
KKK member.
Yeah.
And like I saw that hood before we started streaming when you were on your phone. I saw that hood behind the TV, so can't hide it from me.
Yeah, I keep it back behind my princess tiara.
And apparently I'm a radical third wave feminist, so I believe that you should free the nipple, and that you should definitely not shave, because that is the internalized misogyny.
I like my razors and my bras. You free the nipples, bro.
I told you, not on this stream, not at least on this one.
1 week. 1 week.
Yeah, 1 week, and then I gotta like end my YouTube channel. But I was just gonna get to where it's just the complete hypocrisy of bashing a conservative woman because she's not a left-wing, screaming, bleeding heart liberal. So the only woman who counts, if they're ever going to be a president, is supposed to be a liberal woman, because they completely understand what women want or what women need, which is in itself the soft bigotry of low expectations. And it's,
you know what? If a liberal woman was planning on running on a reasonable ticket where she was using facts instead of feels, maybe I'd even get behind it. But
or saying that I should be present because I'm a woman, it's my turn because I have a vagina.
Yeah, my vagina qualifies me for absolutely nothing.
There we go.
My boobs do not make me better at my job.
I just hope somebody joined in to the live stream right at the point when Harry said my vagina.
It happened. Somebody clicked it and heard Harry say my vagina, and now they're in for the long haul.
Yeah, now we got to see where this is going. Hopefully, this is going to turn into a stuff film really quick.
The only reason I actually joined was because I thought we were going to have some free the nipple action, and I heard that, you know, there was some sort of Ku Klux Klan costumes going on.
I had my hand on my shirt. I was just going to raise it up slowly and be like,
yeah,
hey,
he was gonna strip. I was gonna put my KKK hood on with my tiara. It was gonna be great.
I was gonna grab my torch and just put on my BDSM mask. We were gonna have some fun.
I see you've already got your Antifa gear out.
I know that scarf is very progressive, Chris.
Well, I figured, considering we may touch on the subject of same-sex marriage, I thought I'd wear my pride scarf.
Oh, there, I see. There it is.
Yes, yeah, we are definitely going to touch on same-sex marriage. We didn't want to do that one without you.
Oh, Lord, I don't have anything put on my head. Dang, I feel...
I'm a pretty princess.
You keep telling yourself that, Nicole.
I will. I'll tell myself that. It's true, damn it.
But yeah, we decided to just get started on the Hillary Clinton blame game, but we can always go back to the same-sex marriage discussion if you like.
No. I chimed in late. So
okay. we were saving same-sex for you, Chris.
Yeah, we were just talking before the stream. We were talking between ourselves like what our opinions are on it, and we actually had a pretty good discussion going on. And
okay, cool.
but we will revisit that after the shit show that is Hillary Clinton's new book.
Oh yeah.
Did you hear or read the excerpt from Hillary Clinton's book where she was what did she say? She compared Vladimir Putin's style of governing to manspreading.
There's been so many quotes coming from that book which are laughable. I haven't been able to go through them all, but please do tell. I wonder how she got to that conclusion.
I'll find the excerpt.
Oh, God, yes, read this to us. We need this glory in our lives.
I'd like to hear this mental gymnastics.
I think we know who is the greatest mental gymnast.
Well, I mean, considering that misogyny and sexism are just endemic to America's society.
Oh yeah.
So
this shouldn't be too far of a grasp.
So the excerpt from the book is: President Obama once compared Vladimir Putin to a bored kid at the back of the classroom. He's got that kind of slouch, Obama said. When I sat with Putin in meetings, he looked more like one of those guys on the subway who imperiously spreads their legs wide, encroaching on everyone else's space as if to say, I take what I want, and I have so little respect for you that I'm going to act as if it's my home, lounging in my bathrobe.
Oh, well, there's the mental gymnastics right there. She equates his Russian aggression to what a guy does on the subway with his legs. I love it.
You know what? Only a person who has actually never seen a man naked could possibly not understand manspreading.
I'm doing it right now. I've got at least a 12-inch spread going on.
I have a vagina and I'm doing it.
I have my legs folded neatly over one another.
Oh, are you doing the quaint British Australian thing? Just doing a nice dainty little leg crossover.
We know who the lady is here.
Well, you did say you had are you having a heating problem right now? Is that what you're?
No. What's happened is my oven. I was going to cook some dinner or reheat some dinner earlier, and I turned my oven on, and then my whole kitchen stank of gas.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, so I've got a ripper headache at the moment. And I had
That's
to
why
have
you need to get an electric range.
Yeah, I had to leave all the doors and windows open. It's quite cold here as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Because you know that heinous natural gas.
behind the stove.
No, well, I've turned the stove off and the smell's gone away. So I don't think it's a leak from the pipe. I think maybe one of the
Burners
burners, or you know, the flame at the back of the oven. I think maybe
the pilot is not working.
The pilot light's not working 100%. So I'll probably have to get in there and clean that tomorrow.
So you just. So you're just eating Make America Great Again wafers?
Yeah. No, I actually had to eat cold food.
Cold food. Well, at least that's what Hillary and Comey and everybody will eat in prison, just some cold food. So.
Did you guys see? This was going back a couple of months ago. Chelsea Clinton tweeted out something about the Girl Scouts of America. There was a program where the Girl Scouts of America.
We're going to join the Boy Scouts?
No. The Girl Scouts, or the Girl Guides, I'm sorry. The Girl Guides of America had a program whereby they would take the Girl Guides to go and see their parents in prison.
Oh, God, yeah, I saw that. That's fucking sick.
And no, but Chelsea Clinton I retweeted it. Hang on. Chelsea Clinton Girl Guides Prison.
Visiting a prison, offenders' families helpline. Oh, I know.
No, you tweet.
Here we go. It was from August, the 6th of August.
No.
Chelsea Clinton was, this is from The Blaze. Chelsea Clinton was widely mocked on Twitter Saturday after tweeting a link about a Girl Scouts program that helps children whose mothers are in prison have regular visits with their mothers. From Chelsea Clinton.
How's that going to help? How's that going to help?
Because role models?
No, hang on. Inside a Girl Scout program that brings kids to prison to see their mums. Do you guys not see the irony of this? That Chelsea Clinton is tweeting about a program where kids can go and see their mother in prison?
She just wants to feel like she's doing what everyone else is.
You guys aren't following me.
Yeah, I
Hillary,
guess her mom's going to be in prison soon, hopefully.
Yes.
And then she can go visit her.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll get further. She just puts on a Girl Guide uniform.
I would pay to see that.
Well, it would detract from that horse face, but.
Oh Jesus! No amount of.
I gotta be careful with saying Chelsea Clinton horse face, or I might get banned from Twitter. For like, you guys know Camel, right? Camel Toe. He got suspended for like a week for putting. He put a Mr. Ed meme in a thread from Chelsea Clinton, and she responded to him. So he got a lot of traffic, and then Twitter gave him a 7-day ban for being naughty.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no. He had a thought and an opinion that's shared by most of the country. She looks like a donkey.
I know, it's like those two front teeth of hers could do a lot of damage. I mean, seriously.
She's got her mom's teeth. It's just like she smiles, and they're huge.
You know what she looks like?
know that's not Bill Clinton's daughter. That's what's this guy's name? Oh my God, there's like so many memes about it all over the internet. Like, I'll type it in right now: Chelsea Clinton's real daughter, or Chelsea Clinton's real father.
Have you guys ever put your hand into a sock and then made a fist?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what Chelsea Clinton's face looks like.
Ubi.
Oh my Lord. Ugh.
There is a little kids show called Ubi that is literally just a sock puppet with eyeballs.
Oh, here, look it up. Chelsea Clinton's real father. His name is Webster Hubble. Check him out. That's a spitting. That's literally a kind of like a spitting image.
Is that Webster Hubble?
Webster Hubble. Yep. Hubbell.
Webster. Hube.
BBEL.
Oh damn! That's like that's for real.
I know, right? And that's pretty. I mean, and that's not far fetched. I mean, that's not far fetched because Hillary Clinton only married Bill Clinton for political reasons, and
There's a
I can see
side. Oh,
the only reason why they would have a kid would be for political reasons. But I really don't see Bill being the playboy that he is to like anything that's at least, or it's not like anything that's at least 10, 15 years younger than him. So that pretty much rules Hillary out. So in order to keep their political keeping up appearances going on, she probably just had this Chelsea on the side with Webster Hubble here, who actually had a relationship with Hillary before she was with Bill. So
that is fantastic.
that old squeeze, it always works out.
But that also implies that more than one person has voluntarily had sex with Hillary Clinton.
No, God, no, don't no.
just let that soak in for a second.
Well, it's soaked in, and I'm just gonna put it out of my mind now.
I'm gonna go
a bottle of Viagra. You're gonna need help with that ED.
I know. Are you gonna pay?
I'm gonna go and turn the oven on and lock myself in the kitchen now. Thanks, Nicole.
Oh God! But here. To get back on topic. Let me pull up the list. The list of everything that Hillary blamed for. Her election going awry. A list of. Okay.
That there is a blame game list says just so much.
Oh, let me see if I can find it.
Not once in the whole book from everything that I've read does she once take any personal responsibility or any personal accountability.
She does. Like at the very start of the book, she says, I messed up. I could have done something better. But then it was just it's like two sentences, and then it just goes into her, but this, but that, but
it's I'm the Russians. Idiot. It's James Comey. It's she's a doozy. But I heard you saying before I jumped on, Nicole, when I was just calling you guys names in the live chat, that you said something to the effect of that she really dearly still wants to be president. She's not.
She's too old.
She does want to be, but she's officially out of politics now.
If she thought for 1 second, for even 1 second,
she's not going to shut her mouth.
Possibility that she could run again successfully. If it could enter her brain that would happen, I guarantee she would be on the 2020 ticket.
Oh Lord! But okay. The Democrats they might be idiots who even drink their own Kool-Aid on a day-to-day basis, but even they are smart enough to know that if they put Hillary Clinton on the ticket again, their chances of winning go down to negative 100. She is, as we say, damaged goods. She is not going to be running again, and if she tries to, the DNC is just going to be. They're going to pull a bait and switch on her as what they did to Bernie Sanders this time around. They'll be like, okay, yeah, run, but don't worry. Hey, Bernie, we're sorry we fucked you over last time, but don't worry, we got you now.
What you said right there, that is what's going to happen. Is they are going to encourage her to run, and then they are going to push another candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Hillary is stuck on it. She has been stuck on it since before Bill became president. She wants the Oval Office, and nothing is going to get that out of her brain. She's too old. She is too ill. She is too mentally unstable. And there is no way she would ever be able to get that office. But in her head, she belongs there.
All right. Well, I have the list now of Clinton's follies and what she thinks has caused her the election. So I will shoot these off for you, and I guess we will discuss the most pertinent ones. All right. We start with sexism, racism. I don't know how that's a thing when it comes to her. Misogyny, xenophobia, the FBI, James Comey, Russians everywhere, Vladimir Putin, last time I checked he was a Russian, WikiLeaks, DNC, Barack Obama, Mr. Hussein-O himself, Joe Biden, well, he is kind of a creep, so I wouldn't blame her, Bernie Sanders, well, Anthony Weiner, well, you know, you shouldn't be having your aide de camp married to a guy who's throwing his wiener at 15-year-old girls. Electoral college, polling data. I thought all the polls said you were in the lead, Hillary. What gives? Cable news, New York Times, fake news. Don't worry, cable news and New York Times, that's fake news.
Wait. I thought
she can throw those into one.
Like a trademark on fake news. Can she
I know.
Legally?
Apparently they started the whole fake news verbiage, like the Hillary Clinton camp. So it came back to bite her in the ass. Bots like internet bots, I guess that's what it is. Facebook is to blame, just Facebook itself. Twitter is also to blame. You got Netflix.
Always Twitter's fault.
Netflix, unless they created like some like C-rated like porno about you, I don't see how that hurts you. Anti-American forces, Democrat documentaries, low information voters. Oh, so we're blaming idiots.
Okay. So she didn't win because we're all stupid. Got it.
Yeah, people wanting change. Well, because you're an established politician, I can see why. People who
we
assume
elected Obama twice on the promise of change. Of course,
yeah,
we freaking want change.
Yeah, people who assumed she'd win. So what? These people didn't go out and vote for you, I guess. The Republican Party.
Well, it was. Didn't she say something in her book about or was it in her book, or was it the woman who was coming to the book launch, who was first in line and hadn't voted for her and wished she'd voted for her, and Hillary Clinton had some, you know, I wish I could have said this in my head. I hate you so much. Why didn't you vote for me?
Well, I think that ties into one of these last ones here, suburban women. That was one of the blame games where these suburban women are just too busy in their lives to go and vote for her. You're
welcome, America. It's my fault.
TV executives, well, I guess they're the owners of fake news. And then the last one here, content farms in Macedonia. That whole shtick of the Macedonians like hacked the DNC and got all that information about the Bernie Sanders screw over. So pretty much it is everyone's fault. Literally everybody in the world, even like across the globe, outside of America, in the middle of Macedonia, in Russia, everybody was just against Hillary Clinton because one of the first reasons is because of sexism. Sexism was the number one reason. So you could probably just take all of those and lump it into sexism, because all those people, they just hated me because I was a woman. I have a vagina, and they don't think I can do anything because I'm too emotional. And the best way I can do about it is cry about it in a book.
I have to really edit that clip of you saying that.
I wonder what that's gonna come out as.
I don't know, but it's going to be playing on repeat tomorrow morning, all over Twitter.
Oh Lord. I'll just scream fake news. So, okay, out of this plethora of idiocy, which ones do you want to talk about a little bit in more depth?
Oh, let's go with women to start with.
Suburban women.
Yeah, particularly as suburban housewives. Does she know that our ballots literally come in our mailbox. We don't have to go out and vote. We fill that thing out and stick it back in our mailbox, or we take it and we drop it on the way to work in this lovely little box that says ballot. So we don't have to put any effort to go and stand in a line and be gone all day. We fill that thing out in 10 minutes and drop it off on our way out the next morning. It's not that complicated, and she can eat me.
Yeah, see, I mean, I don't think it's clear whether or not that it's just that she said that suburban women just didn't vote for her, or that suburban women just didn't have the time to vote. So I think it might be a little bit of both.
I think it was both. It seems like she was blaming us for being too busy to actually fill out that thing that comes to our door, and we have to spend no time filling out. And then blaming us for not voting, which I promise, suburban women own homes, own cars, pay taxes, have kids. We are the most invested voters you can imagine.
And there are more women than there are men, so.
Because we are voting not just for us, we're voting for what's going to get handed to our offspring. So there's no way that we're just playing it by ear and letting everybody else handle it. So
yeah, that's very true.
It's no matter how much she wants to play that game, it's never going to fly because it's simply untrue.
All right, well, I'm going to pick one here, and I could just go like eeny, meeny, miny, moe, catch a tiger by the toe. I almost said something else there, but I'm going to go with people wanting change. Well, I'm sorry, Hillary, but I think you forgot the memo that we've had change for 8 years, and we don't like it. So we want more change, and apparently you didn't want change. You wanted to keep things going just the way they were. But that's not what people wanted. So you're kind of out of the loop when it comes to that. I mean, aren't women progressive? Shouldn't she be at the forefront of what new ideas are? But no, she's just a cherry picker and picks the best things out of Obama's presidency and his campaign running talking points, and she just regurgitates it out with a woman's touch and thinks that that's going to be good enough to like get her across the line. No, I'm sorry, you're sadly mistaken. We see through the establishment politics that you push, because she's been in politics since the late 80s, early 90s. Yes, since
dinosaurs.
And we just did not want that. So I'm sorry, Hillary Clinton, but you are out of touch when you think that is one of the problems.
I think out of touch is really a very, very good thing for you to have said right now, because I think that's her biggest problem, is she is out of touch, and everybody kind of saw that.
Well, I mean, she thinks that she can pull this fast one on everybody and make everybody believe her when nobody believes you. I mean, and one of the worst things to do is to not fess up and actually just take personal responsibility, because people would actually respect her more if she did that. But no, she's just delegating all the blame to all this word salad, and it just makes her look like an idiot.
It makes her look like she's hiding something, is what it makes it look like.
I think as much as we all like Donald Trump, I think we can all recognize that you had two of the most unpopular candidates of all time running against one another. And the fact that Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump, someone who does have an established political career, being Clinton, has been in the public eye for so many years, just speaks volumes about how much people hated her. I would suggest even more than people love Donald Trump.
Well, that also it also suggests how disenfranchised people have finally become, and I say finally, because for the past 16 years or so, the American voter has been getting screwed over by the fake promises of the entire political establishment. But people have finally broken their trance from the political mainstayers, the political elite that have been running this country, and they decided for a populace, they decided for somebody who's not trying to become one and the same. They wanted to demolish the status quo and make changes that are necessary for the people and not for the politicians.
Yeah, it's that pretty much exactly that. People were done.
I have to apologize, guys. Within probably the last 5 to 8 minutes, my connection's dropped out really badly on 2 separate occasions. So, just letting you know.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Let's go, Chris. Which one would you like to talk about? There, we got like xenophobia, FBI, Russians everywhere.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think Russians being done to death. FBI, no, there's no weight to that.
Xenophobia, misogyny.
I think xenophobia is an interesting one. Yeah, we can roll the dice with xenophobia.
I don't know how that makes her lose an election. How does being
I think the suggestion that she's making is that everyone who voted for Donald Trump are xenophobic or xenophobes, and therefore didn't vote for her. Once again, passing the blame.
Maybe it's because of the situations happening in Europe and elsewhere in the world, this huge migrant problem and the absolute horror that we're seeing coming out of countries like Germany, France, the UK, and people connected her to pretty much an open borders policy, allow everybody and anybody in, and people were just seeing all this terrorism going on, and they equated that, and they're like, no, we don't want our open borders to allow anybody to come in to blow us up or shoot us or run us over with a truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, sorry, my connection dropped again. I just came back in. Sorry, Nicole.
That's all right. Go ahead.
No, well, I was just going to say in regard to the open borders in Europe, what we've seen in Germany and the migrant crisis flooding from Germany throughout other countries in Western Europe, namely France, Sweden, etc. If it hadn't been for Hillary Clinton's actions and Obama's actions in regard to Libya, that migrant crisis could well have been averted, would have been averted. So I do think people probably connect that in the back of their mind. I think, on the other hand as well, I think a lot of people look to the north, look to Canada and go, oh, gee, we don't really want to have what's happening in Canada happening in our country.
Oh yeah, like passing Bill C-16 or.
I was talking specifically in regard to, well, yes, C-16 is as a result of sort of opening the floodgates into Canada with migrants who are not going to necessarily assimilate all that well into Western culture.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. already has a pretty serious immigration problem, and that's not even considering the Middle East.
Pardon us, where?
The U.S. We have
the U.S. Yeah,
the U.S. has a serious immigration problem, and that's not even considering the refugees coming from the Middle East. That's just kind of par for the course for us. And when she starts talking about taking in and accepting more refugees, everybody's looking around going, and where the hell are we going to put these people? This was another case of her being completely detached from reality, but she wanted to push for these open border policies that are destroying other countries. And that was terrifying for people. So if she wants to call it xenophobia, sure. But it was what it was.
Yeah. See, I was just checking the live chat, and Big Fat Brian here, he's a friend of mine through Rubber Dorky. He was saying about the Netflix, because we were confused about that one. The Netflix had documentaries on Bill Clinton and his dealings, and I guess his nefarious actions, which painted her in a bad light because she stood by her husband and allowed him to get away with a lot of things in the White House and attacked the women that he supposedly raped or allegedly sexually abused, and she went after them. And that's, if she's supposed to be about women and women empowerment and feminism, aren't you supposed to always believe women when it comes to cases of sexual misconduct or rape or anything like that?
Stand by your man,
Yes, yes.
even when he jizzes on dresses.
But
that's all I could come up with.
No, that works.
She's being a complete hypocrite if she's pushing the feminist agenda while sticking by a man such as Bill Clinton. So if that doesn't show her two-faced hypocrisy, then any one of these other issues can lead you to that same conclusion. So
I think the only thing about Hillary Clinton that qualifies her as feminist is that she owns a vagina. And I'm not sure she keeps that in her pants. I'm pretty sure she just has a fleshlight in her dresser drawer.
No, I think she's got Huma Aberdeen's contact number in the dresser drawer.
Why do you need the contact number when she sleeps in the same damn bed?
It is you. Well, I mean, and you know, but further to the point about Bill Clinton, it's not even just Bill Clinton. I mean, look at John Podesta and, as we mentioned earlier, Anthony Weiner and even Joe, I reach around and touch little kids, Biden.
Oh yeah, it was a shit show. And even if you wanted to vote for somebody else, even if you looked at Donald Trump and saw this guy is just a dank meme running for president, even if that's all you could see, everything that was happening on the left looked like fucking Cthulhu had come and started to run for president. There was no way anyone was going to do that.
I know, it's pretty pathetic where if a lot of people think that just a dank meme is running on the Republican side, that you can't get yourself into some order and some resemblance of authority to just blow them away in any debate or any election. So it just shows that she didn't know what she was doing. I mean, she's just running off of past merits, and I use that term very loosely. But she was running off of her past, and she never changed. She never revamped herself, or looked into what the voters were wanting. She just thought that, oh, I can do this. I'm entitled to it. She had that entitled mentality. It's just, this is mine.
Mm-hmm.
The Democrats did not adequately survey the political landscape and what the people wanted. And going back to when we were talking about, if Hillary Clinton runs again, and then we pass the buck to someone else, whatever. The thing is that if the Democrats run the same campaign they did in 2016, come the next election, they're smoked. They're completely smoked. But they lack such self-awareness, and this is across the board with the political left. They cannot see out of their bubble. They cannot see out of their echo chamber.
Well, it's because they're a bunch of moral authoritarians. They always have this sense of, we are the righteous ones. We have the high ground. So you should be listening to us. And if we don't, oh my God, why aren't they listening to us? We're telling them everything that's happening. No, that's your perspective, and that's your very skewed echo chamber perspective, as you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, they have the right think is what it comes down to. And if she can convince them that she will relay their right think, she'll run again. And they are so smug, they are so arrogant, they are so stuck on the right think that they will fall for it.
I was listening to Nigel Farage interviewed the other day on Andrew Bolt's program, and Farage was echoing similar sentiments, that it is because he was basically the architect of Brexit, and then he was campaigning for Trump. He's an outsider. He speaks for people like us, and he was just saying that the elites, they really are elites, especially on the left. They look down at the common folk. They look down at the peasants, and as Nigel Farage said, they'll look down on the peasants and just go, well, they use foul language. They may not bathe as regularly as us. We're so much better. We're these moral authoritarians, and they should listen to everything we say. And that's people are going to rebel against that, and they did with Trump. They did with Brexit.
Yeah, look at some of the crazy crap Trump did during the campaign trail. He would have lost if someone had been there who had been sane and approachable and relatable and not a, decaying crime lord.
Everybody's spent on radio.
But he wasn't running a winning campaign. They gave him the entire presidency. They handed it to him.
Well, exactly right. I mean, if you look at Hillary Clinton's approval rating throughout the 2016 campaign, it jumps around. It's so fucking bipolar. Whereas Trump's approval rating, it stayed within, 5 or 6 points or 5 to 10 points. It was very consistent. Whereas Hillary's would just fly rapidly up and down. And as I said before, I mean, I really think that Hillary losing the election or Trump winning the election, a lot of that came down to the fact that people hated Hillary Clinton so much as opposed to love Trump so much.
I would have voted us back into Europe rather than have her in the office. I would have gone God Save the Queen and taken on an English accent. I would have undid 300 years of history in a heartbeat.
Yeah, with her in office, she would have blown us. She would have blown a hole in America the size of Europe, considering we would have been in war with Russia and China at this time.
In a heartbeat.
But yeah, let's hear that. Let's hear that British accent if you got one.
I don't have one.
Oh, okay.
Oh, come on, give it a shot. I mean, I just sung "Stand by Your Man" before.
She's speechless.
She's gonna do it. She's warming up.
I really don't think I have a very good English accent, though.
No. Actually, you have a better English accent than Gillian Armstrong when she attempts a British accent.
Yeah,
mate, she's just doing that prim and proper, mate. That Cockney is what I do. I can do that all day. You need me to, right?
Yeah, but that kind of sounds like you're gargling somebody's nuts.
Yeah, you sound like you
just jog on, mate.
I'm sorry, Cockney is like the European version of a Southern accent, and I don't think either should be performed ever.
And I don't. Speaking of performances, Harry, never gargle nuts in your mouth. We don't want to see that either.
I do.
You would, Nicole. You're fucked.
But you know what?
Give me 2 seconds, guys. You keep going. I've just got to go and grab my laptop charger. It's about to die.
All right. Well, when you come back,
that almost came out rather Borat.
When you come back, we'll round off why this is going to be a colossal fail for Hillary Clinton if she tries to run again, and then we'll move into the same-sex marriage discussion.
Ooh, more Hillary bashing. All right, I'll be back. You guys keep talking.
How many different ways can we say she's crazy and evil?
Well, just look at the memes that we have of her. I love it, especially at the Democratic National Convention when she was on stage with Bill, and then the balloons start coming down. She's like, oh. I'm just like, she must have had like, or have you tried the cold chai? I love. It reminds me of freaking Alien Covenant. It's just like, oh God, it's coming out. Like, just look, and then like you could just replace the xenomorph with Hillary Clinton, and it probably wouldn't be as bad.
I have to apologize. I am going to go and grab my laptop charger.
No, yeah, do it. Yeah, go.
all of the remixes of Hillary Clinton having these epileptic-style seizures over, like, dance music were just the best. Anyway, I'll be right back.
Oh God, no! I've seen so many. In fact, at one point, I thread posted in my DMs. I thread posted all of the gifts that I could find of her seizing out.
You know what? That's actually, now I'm thinking about, why isn't this on her list, like my health? I wonder why she didn't put that on there, because so many people were questioning her fitness to actually be a president of the United States, and that is actually a legitimate reason to disqualify her to be president.
That's one of the reasons that
Why it's not on the list.
that's one of the reasons that McCain couldn't run successfully, wasn't even his political position so much as the fact that he was old and he was ill and there was a lot of things wrong with him, and we were convinced he was going to be dead within the first 2 years.
Well, he needs to be voted out now because apparently he's got brain cancer, and they need to get that under wraps because, I don't know, the mental constitution of oneself when you have been diagnosed with brain cancer and then you just had a giant lump removed from your head, and then you come voting like, what, a week and a half later? No, I would question your ability of your judgment on that one.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to disagree, only on the grounds that it seems to have given him some much needed clarity about pre-existing conditions.
If that's the only thing, then I guess that's a good thing, because a lot that's one thing that I can stand behind, is that pre-existing conditions aren't the fault of, well, I mean, there could be some cases where you get into a car wreck and then you screw yourself up and then you got some problems from it, but most of the time
has a heart condition.
Yeah, but like I said, on the whole, most of the time pre-existing conditions aren't of the person who has them's control, and it's not their fault. It's like I have asthma, and I was a premature baby, so I'm going to have that for the rest of my life because my lungs are slightly underdeveloped. But other than that, I believe that one of the things that they should be able to come to an agreement on, especially bipartisanly, is pre-existing conditions. So
absolutely, and I think that was when he came back and he voted and he stopped the repeal. That, I think, was his biggest motivator, was he suddenly had a whole new grasp of what pre-existing condition meant, and that people who were going to suffer from the loss of Obamacare would be people with pre-existing conditions, people with disabilities, people who had no control and desperately needed that coverage and would lose it.
Yeah, but you could figure out a point. You could figure out, especially without the Affordable Health Care Act, you could figure out a plan that includes pre-existing conditions.
And that's still the plan. That was never under real argument. Yes, Obamacare absolutely has to be replaced, but you can't take something out of play, leave it in limbo when you have no plan for what.
Yeah, pretty much you have to. If you want, I mean, it's pretty fruitless to try to repeal parts of a law, because then you get into sticky, nuanced mumbo jumbo between what gets to go and what gets to stay.
These weird
and that you're going to be tied down for longer just to figure that out, where you should just have a concrete plan to where, okay, we're going to repeal this, but we're going to replace it. That's why you need to have, it's kind of like, you're going to quit a job, you need to have another job lined up before you just quit one job. But what I'm going to say is, like, getting back to Hillary Clinton, and I assume he's going to be back in just a minute here, but one of the big things, in my opinion, that cost Hillary Clinton the election is when she collapsed on 9/11 last year.
Absolutely. We kind of all thought she died.
Well, I really thought that maybe this is it. Maybe she's actually going to have to just drop out of the race. I mean, at the time when I saw it, I didn't know how severe this was or what happened. But I was thinking, it looked so bad that I'm thinking, Is she gonna have to drop out of the race? Is like, are we gonna have to bring Bernie Sanders back and run him again? And it was just so much controversy over that, and like the video that was just pushed, especially by like because a lot of it was being suppressed, but hats off to InfoWars to keep pushing that into circulation so we can actually see what happened. She completely just lost consciousness, and she like almost hit her head off the pavement.
It honestly looked like she crapped her pants, seized out a little bit, and then fainted. It looked like she had an actual stroke, not just a heat stroke, but an actual stroke.
Oh, well, that's what they're trying to keep under wraps. They actually, a lot of because a lot of, if you're a public figure, a lot of your stuff is in public eye, because people will follow what your doctors or what your aides are doing. A lot of their aides looked up prescription medication for anti-seizure meds, or because she wore those those glasses with the blue tint that's like telltale glasses that stop you from getting seizures and stuff like that. So I mean, there were so many telltale signs that she was so unfit that was a big reason, and that's one of the big things that she could actually blame on her not winning the presidency is because of her fitness. But sadly, it's not on her list.
Well, the reason that didn't make her list, and I will stick by this statement, and I will beat this dead horse until I'm proven right, is because she fully intends to try and run the Democratic ticket again.
I just want to put one of the other reasons that it's not on the list is because her health relates to her, and her list has nothing to do with her.
Also,
yep, that's true. That's like I said before, it's an actual legitimate reason of why she lost at the election, and that's why it's not on her list, because there's an actual legitimate reason. But we will cap this off with a notion that I'm thinking about, and this ties into her if she is running again. And I know that you say that you are steadfast in your opinion that she is going to run again, and I don't think. Well, here's the thing: this entire list that she's created and this entire book that she's manufactured will come back to bite her in the ass in 2020, because this is literally if anybody is going to run against her, they just have to pull out her book and it's like, oh, look at all these things that you blame people for, and I can just go in, look in this information, and carve you up from every single point that you wrote about what caused you to lose, and I can just beat this over your head incessantly to make sure that you lose again.
And the other point, just to expand on what you just said, Harry, is that if she does run again, which I do not think she will, if she does run again, that whole list of things that she's just come up with in a stupid book are going to be debunked when she loses again.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. People are gonna take out. It's like, oh, you blamed what is this here? You blamed
Xenophobia.
You blamed James Comey. But it looks like James Comey actually already exonerated you before the investigation was fully over. So was that? Oh yeah, he actually, in memos, he actually said that he was going to like pardon Hillary Clinton, or like do whatever the FBI does by not indicting people before the investigation was even over with, and that was before they had that meeting together. That they had that meeting, but that meeting wasn't written down anywhere, so we couldn't find out what happened. So he already like wrote it off before it was even done. Or they'll pull out WikiLeaks and be like, oh, well, this is actually true because these sources are legitimate and blah, 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 and rip her to shreds. Or they'll pull out Bernie Sanders and say, look at you, you colluded with the DNC through, like WikiLeaks told us that through the DNC, you screwed Bernie Sanders out of this primary. If this is like a running mate going against her, I mean, can I assume that you're trying to screw me over right now? How do we know you're not an honest candidate? And they should get eviscerated on like the first debate.
I don't think that she'll make it far. I don't get me wrong on that one. I don't think that she'll make it far, but I do think that her pride will have her run again, because the fact that she will blame anything and everything, racism, xenophobia, women, men, purple aliens from Andromeda. She will blame anything, but she will not say, I ran a bad campaign. I'm sorry. I was wrong. She cannot do that, and that tells me she still thinks that she was good enough to be the president, and she will, through pride alone, throw her name in the hat again.
I think that this, what I'm about to say, is something that we are most likely going to touch on the next topic, or in the next topic we talk about, is Hillary Clinton's basket of deplorables moment was very much indicative of the bullying that comes from the progressive left and moral authoritarian left. You cannot go around and call half the country deplorables and racist, bigot, sexist, homophobes.
Sexist, xenophobic, Islamophobic, homophobic.
You can't do that and then not expect that there's going to be some sort of ground level backlash toward you. And I do think that there was probably a lot of on the fence voters who were instantly turned to the Republicans and were turned to Trump because of those remarks, even if they didn't like Trump.
I think it actually...
Because she just showed complete contempt for half of America.
I think what happened was that it just, instead of just... because there was some defection between the Democrats over to the Republicans, but I'm thinking the larger number was she just turned off a lot of voters and just said, you know what? Screw you! I'm gonna go play a round of golf on election day, or I'm gonna go and watch a couple movies on election day, or it's like screw this. So they just got disenfranchised and just got discouraged to go and vote for anybody.
Absolutely.
Well, there's a lot of commentators who I think we all follow who have said that. And sort of, I'll paraphrase Ben Shapiro, that neither of the two major candidates fulfilled his minimum requirements for president. And there's a lot of commentators out there who felt the same. Even Rita Panahi in Australia, she didn't cast a vote. She didn't vote for either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. Because she couldn't pull the trigger for either of them.
Right. There were a lot of people that it was almost impossible. Just to briefly clarify, Rita Panahi is an Australian columnist, but she was born in America, spent her younger years in Iran, where her family background is from, before moving to Australia. So hence why she would have been able to vote.
All right. Because I figured she was probably like a U.S. citizen or something.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to clarify because it sounded pretty weird my saying that.
It's not that terribly uncommon. There are a lot of Americans who have dual citizenships or live abroad.
I was just sort of just clarifying.
Yeah, we got you.
I know people move country.
All right,
even Harry did. Harry moved country.
Yeah, I'm still a Canadian citizen, but soon to be an expat and going to be an American soon. But all right, we will switch gears and we will now talk about what's going on in Chris, in your neck of the woods, with the same-sex marriage vote. And when is that upcoming?
So the voting, well, it's not a formal vote. I think, as you and I have run through previously. So it's basically
like a referendum or something?
Not at all. It has come down to now what is effectively a postal survey. So it's an opt-in, opt-out. It's an opt-in, opt-out vote. It's a postal survey.
So whoever can push their propaganda the most will probably get it.
Yeah. So I would say that there is a lot of campaigning at the moment, obviously from the sort of authoritarian left and the activists, a lot of radical campaigning.
I saw a tweet that you got let out saying, I've seen a lot of vote yes stuff going, but can somebody please find me a vote no, or if this is actually a vote no thing going on Twitter? But because I know you're saying, I saw a tweet that it's like just flooded with vote yes.
Yeah, so in the Twitter trends, you know, at least for the past you know, week, maybe the past 7 days, when I've really been checking it sort of religiously for anything about marriage, what they're calling marriage equality or same-sex marriage, there hasn't been a single thing for the no campaign trending on Twitter, even though it's receiving a lot of votes, even though hashtag vote no is a hashtag that's being used by by yes activists, yes campaigners. That hashtag is not trending on Twitter, but at sort of any given day, any given time, you'll see at minimum one variation of vote yes coming up on Twitter trends. And the sort of rhetoric, I mean, if you click onto vote yes on Twitter trending, and then you don't look at the top, but you look at the latest tweets, the rhetoric that is being spewed by the radical left in regard to this, the bullying isn't coming from the right, the bullying isn't coming from the no campaign, the bullying is coming from the yes campaign. And that's why I was talking about sort of the bullying from the left in the United States in regard to the 2016 presidential election and the campaign.
What are they saying?
I have to say,
what's some of this bullying? What are they saying?
Yeah, give us some
well,
examples.
I was just gonna say that I have not seen in my very short 30 years of existence, I have not seen a more divisive political campaign than what's happening in Australia right now. Within Australia, that is. This is really, really toxic. It's just crazy. The votes, people have already got their papers in the mail. Some people have got their papers in the mail, which is basically a checkbox of do you agree with changing the marriage laws? Yes, you know, tick yes, tick no. And that's sort of being rolled out right now. That's all going to sort of be finished up by the end of October. So we've got another few weeks of this madness left, and then we're going to know the results by mid-November, whether or not it's passed or not. But in terms of the bullying, what we're seeing is, and I mean, I've put a lot of this, I've screen capped a lot of this crazy bullying on my Twitter. You can have a look at my timeline, and you can see some of the madness just from your regular everyday citizen here in Australia. Whether or not you can call them regular, maybe a bit of a long shot. But most recently, within the past couple of days, we had a columnist, media personality, gay rights activist by the name of Benjamin Law. I'm sorry I'm making you tired there, Harry.
No. It's like 4:50 in the morning. So
yeah, no, I'm just trying to rapid fire this out.
Oh no, I'm listening.
A man by the name of Benjamin Law. And he's employed by Fairfax, very left-wing media company. He's got a television show on the SBS, which is a taxpayer-funded network over here in Australia. SBS and ABC are our two taxpayer-funded networks. And he tweeted out that he wanted to hang on. I will just bring this up so I say it correctly. Apologies.
While you're bringing that up, I got a question that kind of touches on to what me and Insanity were talking about before we started streaming. And when it's going to change marriage laws, does it change like the definition of what a marriage is, or does it give rights to a civil union, or what's going on with that?
Okay, well, I will answer that, or at least give my point of view on that. Has my connection dropped? I know I'm still here. So Benjamin Law, this gay rights activist, the other day, so actually on the 31st of last month, he put on Twitter, "Sometimes find myself wondering if I'd hate fuck all the anti-gay MPs in Parliament," so MPs being members of Parliament, "if it meant they got the homophobia out of their system." And so that's sort of, yeah.
That's very vitriolic there. I mean, that's almost like he doesn't know what it means to be homosexual.
Well, he is a homosexual man himself.
Oh,
I mean,
I'm
that's
sorry, I misinterpreted that. I thought he meant like he could. I thought he was talking about the thing.
He was essentially talking about raping members of parliament because they were not pushing for yes.
Yeah,
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah,
And he has not in any way been reprimanded for this. He has not lost his job. You know, taxpayer-funded media outlets have not condemned his actions. And you imagine if this was somebody who was on the right, somebody who was conservative, had said or used that kind of language toward you know, the left have these sort of these minority groups or minority cards for people. Imagine if, and we've seen this a million times before. You know, a white, straight, conservative male says something. I'll give you an example. A television program over here, I believe it was the Project, which is a television program which airs on Channel 10, one of our network stations, at 7 p.m. every weeknight. There's a commentator, conservative commentator, who's on this television program. It's a panel show. It's very left-leaning, by the name of Steve Price. And Steve Price on this show referred to another panelist. Oh, no, I apologize. It wasn't on the Project. It was on another television program. Anyway, he referred to this left-leaning feminist by the name of Van Batten, and he referred to it as hysterical. Now, the media in this country went into meltdown for a week plus over this. People the left were calling for Steve Price to be fired, deplatformed, yada, 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 all because he used the word hysterical to a feminist. Yesterday, one of our very famous rugby league players here, Israel Folau, devout Christian, tweeted very respectfully that because of his faith, he was going to vote no.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah. Right. And so the left went absolutely mental. I was looking at it on Twitter. They were calling for him to lose his rugby career. He's a very famous player over here. Now, what boggles me completely is you can have a character like Benjamin Law, who's basically suggesting he's going to rape elected members of parliament. And that's fine. We don't hear any outrage from that. But a sportsman who is deeply Christian, and he says, well, look, I'm not going to be voting yes. I'm going to be voting no because of my Christian beliefs. It was a very respectful tweet. And the left just go into fucking meltdown mode. I mean, the double standards are just beyond me. Now, I'm sorry, I've rambled. You guys take the floor.
Now, this goes in, like, we were talking about this before the stream a little bit about this, but we were pretty much talking about semantics, and we were talking about how society will work with the changes after they've been able, because of course in America here we have same-sex marriage now. It's part of the law, and it's pretty much how society is going to fine-tune it amongst themselves, and people will take it subjectively. So we were talking about semantics, but this goes into the other topic that I want to talk about how, of course, I'm going to say this, I'm all for same-sex marriage. I have no problem with it. I just hate how the narrative and how all of this is shoved down our throats constantly, and how there is a complete bias from when you have one side of the argument to the other. As you were saying, you could pretty much make a joke, or, well, not make a joke, but imply that you're going to rape this homophobia out of people. I mean, I'm paraphrasing that he didn't say that, but he wanted pretty much fuck the homophobia out of these people. And
sounds like a really sick and bodily fluid bodily fluid kind of reversal of the gay conversion therapy, the electric shock conversion therapy.
It's because that is the left's narrative, and they're going to push it, and they're vocal minority, so they're going to scream the loudest. So when somebody comes at them with traditional views, like we were talking about before the stream, it is met with seething vitriolic hatred, and that it is just just like throw Pepe memes up there, and then just you can hear that all day long, and that's pretty much what you're going to get, because it's this complete lack of self-awareness to where they say that we should be inclusive and that we should be tolerant about all this stuff when they are just displaying none of that when it comes to the other side.
I am, by nature, all for equal rights. I figure if I can do it, everybody else should be able to too. They're not hurting anybody. You do you. But I do have a problem with the methodology they have been employing. It is in no way okay to threaten to rape someone or imply that you would. That is just messed up. It's that's not how you run a political campaign. That's not how you push an agenda. This screaming and hate because wrongthink isn't going to win any favors. And traditionalists and true conservatives are going to look at the issue of gay marriage from the very traditional and conservative perspective, where that's just not how things are done. Now, I've told Harry, and I think I've even told you, Chris, I'm all for it. But I think if you're going to run a campaign trying to make a thing happen, you don't run it based off, you will do this thing, or we will put our dicks in your ass until you are no longer afraid of our penis.
I know, that's going to have the opposite effect, I do believe.
And I just broke Chris.
You catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. With vinegar.
I mean,
Actually, honey's an excellent natural lubricant. So if you combine the two,
oh god, are we gonna? We're degenerating the stream into this already. Okay. But anyway,
sorry, Nicole.
Yeah, continue, Nicole. Continue.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. You can always interrupt me for lube.
Oh, geez.
But it's, if they want to run this, the way that you win is you present facts. You present your position, and then you present the reasons why that is the better position. You don't argue. You don't degrade the other side. And they're going to lose points with traditionalists and conservatives by doing that. It's okay to disagree with this based on your values. That will always be a thing. But if you can present economic reasons, if you can present legal reasons, if you can present anything except for moral high ground, then you can get conservatives and traditionalists to see that perspective, to accept that there is an argument at all. And
like, and let me continue from that. Like, what I think you're trying to say is that even though you have traditionalists who won't like it, as what I was saying before the stream with my opinions, that I'm a traditionalist and I see that, you know, marriage should be for a man and a woman, but since it's the law is the law, I can get behind it as long as I know that there is a societal perception that there's still maybe a difference between the two.
right.
I mean,
I have to say that I think I fall somewhere in line with both of you on this. That you know my libertarian side is pretty much in line with Harry. Hey, and you also, Nicole, that hey, you know, if it's the law of the land and you're not hurting anyone, you know, go for it. Go for it. As long as you're not engaging in hate fucking, I don't mind what you do, as long as there's consent and, you know, all parties are happy.
And
maybe
not
throw
on
some money in
Parliament
there.
floors.
Yeah.
I would really prefer that they kept that out of Parliament, unless it's on
Well, I'm 100% for same-sex marriage, right? But what has really shifted my position in regard to my vote, which I'm really actually, you know, now that the voting is here, I'm really finding it hard to pull the trigger either way. But what has really shifted me is the the activists, and I think we've come to this conversation far too late in this country. When Ireland had their vote, it was a public vote. It was very peaceful. There was no bullying. There's no aggression. None of this crazy stuff we're seeing over here right now. It passed with flying rainbow colours. But the thing is that the conversation has moved so far beyond just same-sex marriage, just two dudes getting married, two chicks getting married, and being that sort of modern family idea or ideal of same-sex marriage. The conversation has moved.
To smear.
Well, no, I was going to say that the conversation has actually moved. We've got this Safe Schools program here in Australia, which is being rolled out, which is effectively it's cultural Marxism. You're aware of this, yeah, Harry? I know you are. And so this program is actually pushing penis tucking for young boys, breast binding for girls. Boys can wear dresses to school. It really, and this I'm talking about prepubescent kids here. They're getting taught about how to use dildos in classrooms, as though this is part of a sexual education program that 8 to 11-year-olds should be exposed to. The architect of this program is a woman by the name of Ros Ward, who is a Marxist. She actually wants the Australian flag banned because she believes it's racist. And the Yes campaign and the activists, left-wing activist groups such as Get Up over here in Australia, they are very closely tied with the Safe Schools program, the Safe Schools agenda. They're very much of this whole mindset that, yes, kids can start transitioning, boys can be girls, age of 3 and 4, all this craziness. So the conversation, and we've seen this in Canada as well, the conversation has moved so far, and that's why I said
to what it's not really talked about. It's not really about
exactly.
the original position.
Exactly. So I am for same-sex marriage. I'm for that modern family same-sex marriage. But you know what? That's 5 years ago, that conversation. We're seeing this craziness now in Australia because we're 5 years late to this conversation. And I think the warning lights are going off for people on our side of politics, my side of politics, the right, conservatives, libertarians, because we're looking at what's happened overseas. Kids in Canada can be taken away from their parents. I believe if their parents don't if the kid says that I believe I'm a boy but I'm a girl, and the parents say no, but you're actually a boy, you're biologically a boy, the kid can actually be removed from that family home unit. And so these sort of programs are tied in. You look at the rollout of these programs that all happened after same-sex marriage. So I think that's where the warning lights are going off for people like me and other people of my mindset.
It sounds like you're getting. It sounds like everybody on the right there. This is what I'm just thinking is that it sounds like you're all getting a straw man. You're saying that the conversation right now is not what this vote is on, and this is what everybody's mindset is. But whenever we have doubts about like boys becoming girls at the age of 3, or breast bindings or penis tuckings and all that stuff, when you have legitimate concerns about the health care of a child, when it comes to that, they throw a homophobic fear-mongering campaign against you, and it's a complete straw man.
Correct. And I do think that we've had laws passed. What are we today? We're Thursday here in Australia. We had laws passed yesterday in Parliament that basically have censored our free speech for the duration of this same-sex marriage campaign. People who are homophobic or discriminatory, etc., can be whacked with a $12,500 fine. I do not doubt that anyone on the left will be getting whacked with a fine like that. But here's the issue. We haven't even had same-sex marriage passed yet in this country, but we're passing laws, which these laws are going to be rolled out for the duration of this campaign. Now, if same-sex marriage gets up, I guarantee you these laws will be implemented, will be instated
for permanently. Okay,
Yeah.
here's the thing. Well, this is, to me, that is blatant vote manipulation, or that's blatant. That's a threat. It's pretty much anybody who votes no. Your neighbor, if your neighbor voted yes and they find out you voted no, they'll call you a homophobe or something like that, and they'll get you slapped with a $12,000 fine. So that in itself is like, it's you know where the government lies. Then if before this vote even gets passed, they temporarily put in stays on freedom of speech, temporary like halts on freedom of speech for a certain opinion. That's literally a disincentive to vote no. It's a threat that if you do vote no, we find that out, or if somebody who is a busybody finds out and tells people or tells somebody of authority and gets you in trouble, you get hit with a $12,000 fine. So people have to look at this monetarily, as in, like, if I vote no, I could possibly be fined $12,000.
Well, I mean, you know, if you were on the no side of the divide in this highly contentious argument, you would actually, I mean, for example, I mean, let's say you're a gay man, or better yet, a trans gay man, because you have been doing all that vagina talk this evening, Harry. You know, if I was to actually, you know, I don't know, publicly vilify you or something like that, I think that's when maybe we could look at, or maybe the whole fining someone, you know, could come. I don't, you know, no one's gonna get slapped with a fine just purely for voting no. But the other concerning thing is that these laws are being rolled out across social media platforms as well. So Facebook, Twitter, etc. So, for example, I mean, I don't post anything that. I don't post anything homophobic. I don't post anything hateful about other people. I will screen cap people's stupidity.
What about joking around? Because anything, pretty much, when it comes to these people, words are violence, so they'll misconstrue anything to be homophobic or whatever nature, and that's how they are able to completely get this grasp, a stranglehold on a thought process or on an opinion, because they can threaten it with monetary action, or they can threaten it with legal action. And this is how they use fear, they use control, and this is just a leftist tactic that's happened throughout the world. And
well,
I wouldn't stand for it. I mean, I'd probably be broke by now if I was living in Australia.
I was called a bigot yesterday by a very famous Australian singer publicly on Twitter.
Oh Lord, who was it?
Well, he's not particularly famous anymore. I mean, most of his albums are sitting in. Well,
he dropped out a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Whoops.
You know what? Sri Lankan Australian singer by the name of Kamal, and he referred to me as a bigot on Twitter.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. You dropped out there for a second. We thought that
my connections dropped.
We thought the thought police were onto us, and they stopped you from revealing who this person was.
Yeah. Where his albums are hidden, which I'm guessing is your grandmother's attic.
He polishes them off from time to time.
Honestly, the political campaign for the left right now is really touchy, because they've had these campaigns for pro-pedophilia. They've had these campaigns.
Whoa! Back up there, Nicole. I just got back in, and now all I've heard. Oh, I'm going again.
What happened?
Oh, okay. Am I back?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Good.
Okay, all right, just bear with me, because I really did want to hear what you were saying, Nicole, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually change. I was just on...
Okay, then.
I guess he's going to change something quick. Yeah, I think he's changing.
I'll keep it warm.
I'm just thinking, I'm just going to ask you, I mean, since it's already passed in America, and I didn't really pay attention to how this was done, because I know we did it through the judicial court, and it was done through the Supreme Court. Was there this much vitriol, this much hatred going around?
At all. There was a lot out of the churches like Westboro and stuff like that. You had, but the hate was coming from the extreme traditionalists and the extreme conservatives. the liberals and the LGBT community was actually very well structured during the American push for rights, but the political climate for the liberal community has changed a lot. If you look at the extremist tactics and the extremist Marxist BS that they're pushing so hard, this is not the time to be trying to do this, and using bullying tactics is making it worse. They had a campaign on YouTube not long ago where they were trying to normalize pedophilia. It's not okay. And the more extreme they get, the more traditionalists, the more conservatives, the more religious people are going to
Fight
stand
back.
up and go,
Yeah, they'll more pushback.
yeah.
Hey, speaking of being back, I'm back.
Nice that you're back. We were just I was just asking Nicole if we had any of this massive vitriolic back and forth here in the United States when this happened here last year.
It was
But-
kept fairly civilized, really, and the Yes campaign tended to stick to facts. We had some glowing examples of a elderly couple who had been together for 40 years, and one of them was very sick and passed away, and the surviving partner,
Didn't have any access to
no inheritance, no
Wow.
survivor's rights, no rights to oversee her medical care. We had some glowing examples of why this could be a good thing. And it was run at the right time under the right conditions, so that all the screaming from organizations like the Westboro Baptist Church about how we're all going to burn in hell
Well, they're a bunch of loons. So.
and things like that tended to wash over everyone as just crazy talk. So here it was very different because it was run in the appropriate social and political climate. I think right now in Australia, from what Chris has described, it is not the appropriate social or political climate. I think that
It should have been done years ago when they actually were talking about it.
I think the extremist perspective and the extremist restrictions that have been placed on people there are going to make this look more and more like a floodgate to complete and total anarchy.
Yeah, like what Chris is saying, like they've usurped the argument to where, oh, this is about same sex or this and that, but in everybody's forefront, we were talking about this safe schools program and transgenderism, because they're trying to lump all that into the same group, and that's just gonna you have too many people.
It's a completely separate issue.
Yeah, I mean, because they're gonna what's happening right now in the United States is we're pushing for more transgender rights, even though we don't really need any transgender rights, in my opinion. Like more transgender rights, in my opinion, because everybody is already created equal. But it seems like they're trying to lump it all together, and there's just too, like, it's kind of like it's a frog in the pot situation. You have to, the people on the right, the conservatives, the traditionalists are like the frogs in the pot. You just turn it up slowly, just let us get used to it, and then we should be okay. But if you turn it up to 100, we're gonna hop right out. We're not gonna go for it.
Well, that's a really good point that you make, Harry, because I think the left always turn whatever their cause du jour is, their cause of the day, whatever it is, because they always have to have a fucking cause, because otherwise they wouldn't be around. We'd have no use for them. Whatever the cause is, they do turn it up to 100, and they expect that everyone else will just fall in line, and then overnight they will just accept that you need to now call Bruce Caitlin, and if you don't, you're a transphobe. You're 75, 80 years old. You've never seen a transsexual person before, but I'm sorry, you've got to change your mind right now. You've got to start calling Bruce Caitlin, or you're a bigot.
And it's like Z's here, and like Xur and all this
Well,
crap.
that's the thing. We live in a time and age where we have never. We live in the internet age. We have never been exposed to this much information at any given time at this rate ever before in the history of human civilization. And now we are being bombarded at rapid pace with all this change, all this information. And the thing is that even as far as humans have evolved, our brains haven't evolved to be able to keep up with this. And they certainly haven't evolved to the point where overnight I'm just going to go, if I did have children, which I don't, all of a sudden I'm just going to go, hey, that's cool. I'm happy for my 8-year-old to be in a class learning about breast binding and penis tucking because that's the new normal. Sorry, I didn't grow up like that. And, you know, if that's the conversation, it's going to take me a...
and a 10-year-old, and I can promise if I found out about this, I'd be in prison for killing someone in administration.
Yeah, because, I mean, my main argument about that is a biological one. I mean, these kids are, they haven't hit puberty. These kids, they have not hit puberty. They're not old enough to understand what the heck you're trying to teach them. And all you're doing is skewing their thought processes for when they actually do hit puberty or when they start thinking about these things. And they're not going to grow up. I mean, everybody, I think, by the time you turn 18, do whatever you want with your body. Chop off your dick, freaking grow a pair of breasts. I don't care. You're an adult now. But from that time, from 0 to 18, there should be certain standards. Like you should follow a certain biological rule where this person is still developing. They need to understand what it means to be like a human, what it means to be a part of like a male or female, and then they can make a reasonable, logical conclusion whether or not they want to continue to be a male or want to continue to be a female, and then make this change. You don't skew somebody. You don't indoctrinate somebody that young, because right now there is an explosion in Australia of transgendered kids, and that goes directly into what they're teaching these kids. And it's just like in these safe schools programs, they're saying we have to be more inclusive. We need to have to be more understanding about these trans kids and what the struggles are going through. So we're going to teach you all about this. So it's a lot of these kids are just brainwashed into thinking that they are. So of course you can correlate the starting of the safe schools program, teaching kids about transgenderism, to this explosion of transgenderism in a couple of years' time with these kids who are very they're very
malleable,
impressionable. They're impressionable, and they just take everything, suck it all up, and think of it as fact. It's kind of like, you know, if you're like a 3-year-old, your parents says that's a table, and you're going to remember that's a table for the rest of your life. But like if you're 5 years old and they say you can grow up as a girl and you can cut off your penis, then they're gonna that's one of the main things they're gonna think about when they're, you know, growing up through their lives. They're like, oh, I could, you know what I'm trying to say. It's just like you don't need to be telling these kids about that right now, because there's so many other implications. There's so many other problems that can arise if they do this young, as opposed to later in life when they can understand the ramifications and the effects of all this stuff.
I just want to say sorry that my connection keeps dropping out. So I'm coming back in here sort of halfway through everything. So
no, it's
my
okay.
apologies. You go ahead, Nicole. I do want to follow up on what Harry said. I want to reply, but you go ahead, jump in, because I'm.
No, go ahead. I'll jump in after.
All I was going to say was you spot on the mark there, Harry. We can't be teaching these kids, saying gender is fluid, gender is what you make it. You can be a boy, you can be a girl, and this is very, very damaging. I don't know if you guys, I know it was reported heavily in the United States, at least throughout conservative media outlets. There was a 60 Minutes story which aired in Australia last Sunday evening, which was about a now 14-year-old boy who had started his transition at the age of 12. And then
he wanted to be a boy again.
And he wanted to be a boy again. Now, the thing is that, and I only just learnt this. I learnt this from watching Blair White on the Dave Rubin the other day. But I didn't know this when I saw the 60 Minutes report. So this boy has been taking estrogen, illegally, might I add, because his mother was giving him the estrogen tablets.
Yeah,
because he
her
was
prescription.
her prescription estrogen tablets because he was too young to transition. Bang. I mean, this is child abuse. This is absolute child abuse. And the problem is that I felt for the mother, because the mother was at the point where she was sleeping by the child's bedside because the child was saying that he was going to kill himself if he couldn't become a girl because of society's indoctrination and society, excuse my French, but fucking with an impressionable child's mind. Now, but I heard this from Blair White when she was talking to Dave Rubin the other day, that if a child of that age starts taking estrogen, I knew this from the interview, that it does stunt the bone growth. It does. It means that, you know, the male hands are not going to grow as big. The shoulders won't be as broad. The child will not grow as tall. You know, they're never going to play basketball. But I didn't realize that actually when the full surgical transition happens, if it was male to female, the vaginal canal, I'm sorry for being all clinical, but the vaginal canal can only be as deep as the growth of the penis.
And
so you've now got a boy, you've now got this boy who's been on estrogen for the past, during prime puberty growth, for the past 24 months, right? If not more, maybe slightly less. Now, his penile growth would have been that stunted that he wouldn't have been able to fully transition to being a female because the vaginal canal would not have been deep enough, because he went on hormones too early. But now also you've got the problem that he wants to be a boy again at 14. I remember when I was 14, I couldn't make a fucking decision to save my life. I was a retard. Now, this 14-year-old, he wants to be a boy. Presumably he wants to date a girl. Now, I hate to say this, but now he's going to be dealing with, let's say, some insecurity issues on the equator line because of being on hormones for the past 2 years. This is really sick and damaging, and this is a social experiment which has never been tried before, and we do not know enough about transgenderism. We know that we look at the statistics. I did a whole Periscope video on this. We can look at the statistics in terms of mental health on adults. I mean, what's this going to do to kids? They're all going to be, I mean, you know, teen angst is bad enough as it is without changing your body parts. I'm sorry, I went on a rant.
Well, before now, Nicole, I'm not trying to take up your time, but I just want to add on to this because I don't know about like any of the science behind this, but maybe I don't know if the kid's gone through puberty yet, and maybe they could. I don't know if it would be as easy as just giving him some testosterone to induce maybe puberty or something and get that kicking up again, so he can actually like grow up as a boy as he wants to, but he'll just, you know, be stunted in some areas, but maybe they can like save some of his manhood but what I wanted to actually say is
possible eventually.
Okay, so it'd be just probably a very late bloomer.
Late bloomer. We're looking, instead of having a development peak at like 15 or 16, he would have a development peak at like 18 or 19.
Wow. But you know what? That whole story ties into this other story. Have you guys heard of Jazz Jennings?
Yes.
Yes. This is, and she has a show and all this stuff about how she's like, she's transitioning to be a girl and she's so brave and all this stuff. Well, apparently she's come up to a hiccup in her transition because she started hormone blockers, I think when she was like 9 or 10 or something like extremely early. And here's the thing, they cannot give her neovagina because she has a prepubescent penis and it's too small to turn into a vaginal canal to get it to make. So now she is stuck in. Now she is so far gone. She's got like breast implants, and she's been on this for years and years and years. That she is going to be, and she's, I think, already sterile. So she is completely stuck in no man's land. Pardon the pun, but she is stuck in no man's land there with not a hope or prayer to actually be the gender that she wants to be, or actually transition back to the gender that she actually is.
That's actually a good lead-in into where I was planning on going anyway, was kids in general are going through a lot of developments, and a lot of those developments are in their heads. Not only does your body have to develop, it has to go through puberty in order for a successful transition to happen, but they are going to go through too much mentally. And this is on top of the dysphoria, assuming that they have that. For them to be able to even make that call and stick to it at any point, I think before about 16. If at that point late in puberty, late in their teens, when they're already well into puberty, they were to say, hey, mom, I feel like I shouldn't be a dude. I want to go buy some bras and get on estrogen. At that point, it can be discussed with a doctor, I think. This is just my personal stance. I'm allowed opinions. But I think anything earlier than that is detrimental to the child. Not only what if they change their mind, not only are there medical implications, not only are there social implications, because yes, there are. Kids are assholes. But I think allowing them to step in there, instead of being the support system that a kid who is different in any way needs, instead of being, it's okay to be different and we will handle this one step at a time, just jumping in with both feet into the deep end is more harmful as a parent, more harmful to the child than saying, you're on your own.
Yeah, the loving thing to do is to be like, well, let's make sure that you are actually different. Let's take the time to make sure that you are first of old enough to be of sound mind to make a decision like this. We're going to teach you about all the downsides, because that is one thing that they blatantly disregard, is when they teach these kids about all the things that could go wrong, all the things that will affect you, impact you in your life, how you're going to be sterile. That's a tiny little thing that they forget to tell these kids, is that you're going to be sterile and you're not going to be able to have kids yourself. I mean, hello.
There's a reason that introduction to sexual ideas, and by that I mean sex ed in schools, isn't done until middle school. Puberty has the impact where that is information that they are eventually going to need. However, introducing them too early just introduces confusion. There are kids who are different. I have one. And it's okay for them to be different. There are systems in place. My daughter's school has the Queer Students Association, which basically is just another a group where these kids who are different and are dealing with, you know, other kids who are by their very nature assholes, can come together and just be like, hey, I'm not by myself. And that's a good idea. But this indoctrination crap is harmful to every single solitary child.
I was going to ask you a question, Nicole. Do you, excuse me, do you think a lot of this, because I do you think a lot of this, as you said, indoctrination, and this is for you as well, Harry, because it touches on what you just said, do you think a lot of this is parents foisting adult concerns onto children? So we see this, there's a lot of, there was a massive retail outlet, clothing outlet, high street outlet in London recently, who have changed all the clothing tags on boys and girls clothing to say that it is boys and girls. So there's no gender segregation anymore. That I tweeted about it a couple of weeks ago. There's a little pink tutu, and the tag on it actually said for boys and girls. Here's the size. Do you think that society is sort of pushing and fostering these adult concerns of gender and gender roles onto children, and that sort of goes back to the social experimentation?
Well, like,
I think so. I think to a degree, though. I think that, yeah, there are boys who like girly things, and there is something of social was something of a social stigma to being the boy who plays with Barbies, or the boy who wants to wear his sister's tiara and pumps. But, and it's okay. You know what? That's fine. But I think that people saw this shadow of adult concern and decided to make it a glowing beacon of progressiveness. And
Yeah.
that is damaging. It's not helpful. It's damaging.
Well, it goes into like it's partly where this whole gay is okay, and which it is, and like transgenderism, this whole issues that we have as adults and how people try to cope with that in amongst society, and figure out where their places lie, and it gets bashed over our heads to the point where it seeps into the younger and younger fields of discussion, to where this is not just an adult issue. This is a human issue, and a lot of these people who are adults say that a lot of this, where this validity of this argument comes to, you hear a lot of these stories where I was a kid and I knew I was different, but I couldn't find a way how to express myself, and it was difficult and stuff like that. So this is this bleeding heart mentality. Well, we got to make sure that we find these kids, we find these people as early as possible, to have them have them get or have them set up a comfortable life as early as possible for these people who are transgendered. So they teach it earlier and earlier, and they don't understand the harm that they're causing to kids who aren't, because it's pretty much.
Sorry, you go. Sorry.
It's pretty much. I think you're starting where it's a slippery slope. Is that what you're about to say?
Yeah.
And that where it will. The whole issue that they are trying to amend and make better, they're just going to conflate, because it's just going. You're going to like when you're trying to, like, it's kind of like a Hoover set to transgender, and you're on a shag carpet. You're trying to suck up all the transgenders, make them okay. Well, you're going to suck up a lot of normal kids who are just going to be confused about this, and you're just going to throw them in there, and then that's just going to create more of these problems, more of these issues, because transgender people have some of the highest suicide rates, or do have the highest suicide rates out of any subgroup of population of male or female or straight or bi or anything like that. And this is just going to compound that.
From what I have seen, just statistics from watching Blair, from hearing others talk about it, from what I've seen, it is hard to have legitimate dysphoria. Now, if you add in 1,000 kids who now have fake dysphoria, how is that going to make it easier to identify and help the ones who have real dysphoria, who need the psychological help, who need the medical help, who need that support and that validation? How do you find those kids amongst the shitstorm of progressive children who have this fake dysphoria, where they're just like, I want to be a princess today?
But when you have so many doctors coming out, and they're now going against this whole indoctrination narrative, where we have to now be more careful with how we introduce this to the younger generation of kids, that we don't roll up anybody who isn't of that mindset. And so many doctors are now coming out and saying that this will make a bigger issue or compound the issue that we already have. Then the only reason I can think of is why this is still pushed steadfast by the political agenda is for other reasons. This isn't for the welfare of these transgender people. This is pretty much to create another set of identity politics, like another section for identity politics to reign supreme.
And that's just it. Identity politics are cancer, and I don't think that they understand how bad they're damaging their own cause. And that's why it's cancer.
Because they say they want to help out these people, so because they and I believe that it is for well-intentioned means. Like they want to try to curb the amount of suicides that transgenders go through, and they want to make sure that they live like normal lives and that they're accepted in society. But when you like start sucking up or you start indoctrinating a ton of people who pretty much wouldn't be affiliated with this if you just treat it with a gloves off approach and allowed it to happen just naturally. And as soon as you can identify these people in like late teenage years and then give them the help that they want, and give them and teach them that there is like an acceptance in society, and there is programs that will help you instead of having people ostracized as they were in decades past, that would solve the problem. But what happens is they want to help these people avoid committing suicide. But if you get a bunch of people who are confused and they aren't transgendered or don't have dysphoria, and they do get a sex change, and they wake up at 30 years old and they're like, what the heck did I just do? And this could create a lot more suicides.
Yeah, we're adding more complications and more stigmas to this issue instead of solving the ones that are there.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm back. I'm really sorry about this, guys.
Oh, no.
It's okay. We just fill in the blanks when you go away.
Yeah, I know. When I go, it leaves this gaping hole. I just wanted to, I don't know how far along you guys have progressed in the conversation, but I just wanted to add just 30 seconds was that I think it's much like how doctors overdiagnose ADD or ADHD. I don't know if you guys have brought this up. I know you sort of alluded to it. They overdiagnose or misdiagnose this in children, and I can give a personal example that when I was a kid, the doctors diagnosed me with ADD, and my mum was like, no, he doesn't have ADD, he's got a personality. There's a very, very big difference there. And
see, that's like your parents were actually, they knew who you were, they knew who they were. They weren't going to just be allowed to just get railroaded or like run over by the opinions of a doctor.
And that's why I think that to use the slippery slope term that I love to use so much, it really is because
breaking out that lube again.
Because you know when I was a kid, when I was 6 years old in 91 or 92, 93, it was the ADD diagnosis. Let's diagnose every kid with ADD. And if I was 6 years old in 2017 and I was playing with a Barbie doll, I'd be diagnosed as having gender dysphoria. I'd be diagnosed as potentially trans, and that is really crazy. That within a span of less than 30 years, we've gone from overdiagnosing or misdiagnosing kids with ADD to overdiagnosing or misdiagnosing kids with gender dysphoria or trans, whatever it is. It is absolutely mental. It's batshit crazy.
I completely agree. I have two daughters and a son. My son is the youngest, so he grew up with a house full of girl stuff. Just me, two girls, and him, and all this girl crap. He used to run around wearing a tutu and a princess crown and my high heel shoes and singing Lady Gaga. This was him at 2-3 years old, and it wasn't gender dysphoria. He was entertaining himself. Now he's 9 and he likes Sonic the Hedgehog and thinks half the girls in his class are his girlfriend.
There you go.
Hey, he's a player.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about him.
Oh no, he's a little stud muffin. He's got it covered.
Player.
He's grown up with women. He's got the inside track. He knows about all the sensitivities about women, and he can play that to his advantage.
Sisters is that women are homicidal maniacs, so I don't think that he pulled anything out of that.
I'll tell you what, us boys, we like a little bit of crazy.
But that's what I'm saying is you can't take everything that a small child does and say this is an identity thing, because no, it's a kid thing.
Yeah, well, like at 3 years old, a kid will think he's Superman, or a kid will think he's a fish, or a train, or like a fighter bomber or something.
To run through a wall like the Juggernaut, okay?
Oh, the Juggernaut, bitch!
Yes, he actually screamed this, grabbed a little rubber pin, ran through the house and bounced off a wall and was appalled that he could not go through it. He didn't cry. He was just really appalled that he couldn't make it through that wall. That's a
you're just like, I'm glad you didn't break the wall.
But it's so true what Harry just said. I mean, remember when you were a kid, when you were 6, 7, 8 years old, you wanted to grow up to be a firefighter or a king or a princess. And it's like, well, you know, by the time you're 14, 16, 17 years old, wow. I mean, even if you,
I was still holding on to my dreams of global domination.
See, no, this goes, Chris. This
and
is
actually, you still want to be a princess based on that bloody crown you're wearing.
What
I have
you
a whole
just
collection of these. I am a princess.
what you just said,
would.
Chris, ties into the whole: are we projecting these adult issues onto our kids, to where when our kids are displaying or like just acting out or like doing whatever, entertaining themselves, we think it's a deeper issue because we are assuming that these kids know what they're doing. Like we assume that they know at an intimate level, like an adult would, what they're like doing, but what they don't. They're just being kids. They're just playing around or doing whatever.
And I think that actually ties into the debate over the difference between being a parent and parenting, and what I can surmise from, or what I can gauge from the difference between being a parent and parenting is being a parent is you're an authority figure. There is a chain of command, whereas parenting is this lovey-dovey. We're best friends. My child is this completely autonomous and sentient being, and I'm going to accept whatever they say in the same light that I would accept what someone else with my lived experience and background says. And I think that's really, really dangerous.
Now, I kind of both agree with you here, Chris.
You agree and agree, or did that just cut out?
I agree and disagree with you. There is a balance between what you're describing as being a parent and what you're describing as being as parenting. You can't just always be the authority figure because kids will eventually rebel. You cannot.
I didn't mean always. I was just providing a very loose, a loose overview of what the differences, as far as I could tell, between the two sides were.
You can't assume that kids, just on the basis of being short, aren't, living, breathing, thinking things. No, they do not have adult experience. No, they are not as developed as an adult is. But the first mistake any parent can make is thinking their kids don't get it. Because in more cases than you can possibly imagine, they do. So you have to meet in the middle there. You have to be this, if I say it, that is life, and you will accept it because you have no choice. You're short. But on the other hand, you have to recognize and be okay with the fact that your kid is going to have opinions and thoughts, and they may not align with yours.
Yeah, that's where you're like, it's like, hey, it's kind of like almost like the same concept, like, hey, I just drew this great photo. It's just like a bunch of squiggles on the thing. It's like, yeah, that looks really great. I'm gonna put that on the fridge. But but remember, don't try to drag it off the fridge and pull everything down and make a mess, because don't need that. So there's a certain give and take, and where you draw the line about where you're supposed to be the authoritarian, to where it's like, don't run out into traffic, but you can pretend to be a car in the lawn.
It's a scale. Too much either side is going to be damaging, and right now I think we have too much of the progressive side. We have too much identity politics in child rearing, and we should have less. It should be about the child, not about politics.
Yeah, and that goes back into where everything's become too politicized, and they think that they can just extrapolate a curriculum at school with this safe schools programs to just do the parenting for you, but which is completely going to lead to a giant mess. But guys, you know what? I think we will wind down this stream here. It is almost 6 a.m. in the morning. Let's everybody, before we leave, to wrap it up, does anybody have a crazy liberal story that they'd like to quickly share that they've seen in the last day or two, like a crazy liberal, wacky world, like example that they'd like to share quick?
Let me see.
Like something you saw on Twitter, or like an opinion that somebody has.
I see entirely too much on Twitter. I saw a woman, an actual human, going down the bicycle trail that runs alongside my house with no shirt on. And
You live in Portland. That's normal.
Yeah. And when she saw me staring at her like she'd grown a third head, she called me a Nazi.
And so she's running along bare-breasted, and you're giving her a weird look, but you're the Nazi and you're the crazy one?
I was standing out at the end of my driveway smoking a cigarette, and she comes pedaling by, and I mean, what little shirt she had was like down to her belly button, and I mean, it was straight up just tits out. And I'm looking at her like...
Was the nip showing?
Yes. Like, no bra.
Ooh.
Apparently bras are against the law. But like straight up tits out. And I'm looking at her like, what the hell? And she stops because there's an entrance to an apartment complex. So she stops to let a car go by. She looks and she sees me. She goes, "The f are you looking at, Nazi?" And I'm just like, I died, like right there. I like sat down at the end of my driveway, and me and my cat had a good laugh.
You know what? You've actually always given off this kind of Ava Braun vibe to me. You're female. I mean, I don't want to sort of assume your gender, but I assume you're female, so I can't call you literally Hitler.
Just checked, still girl.
Okay, cool.
Just need to like perm your hair up and then get like dye it like bleach blonde, and yeah, get that. There you go. All right, Chris, any crazy thing from the libtard universe?
Oh, well, that's half my Twitter timeline, as you would know. The stupidity of the left.
Yeah.
But I will say very quickly, I will get to a choice lefty crazy, but I will say, speaking of liberal lunacy from Nicole's neck of the woods, would be the Portland police dismantling their database of gang members because guess what?
They're not white enough.
It's not diverse enough. We need more intersectionality when it comes to gang members because they're dismantling it. Because
are they asking for white people to join the gangs or something?
I think that will be the next step.
For the Russian mafia to increase its activity in the area, so that they have more white people. I can't even say that with a straight face. I'm sorry.
That's just,
all right. Well, I just I've got so much gold here. I've got the guy who tweeted out the 9/11 attacks were a horrific event in US history, but the election of Donald Trump will be seen as equally disastrous, if not more so. What else do I have? I've got Portland. How about BBC? BBC Trending. They tweeted out, how do you do your makeup after an acid attack, as opposed to,
Oh God,
I don't know, how do we stop acid attacks? That's brilliant from the BBC. That's a
Legalize
new low,
it. People will
even
throw
for
acid
them.
at you if you can shoot him.
Yeah, I know. I saw that, but my favorite from this week is family-friendly sex robots, as reported by the Daily Mail. Father unveils the sex robot he lets sit on the sofa with his children and join him in the bed with his wife.
Oh no.
Yeah, so
The sex robot. Yeah. Oh lord.
yeah, well, there was two sex robot stories this week. There was one that was reported in the New York Post,
They're gonna
which was
kill
that hackers could, and
Homicidal.
exactly the way I want to die is getting killed by a sex robot.
You know
but yeah,
when I saw that, I was thinking about that one GIF Kira sent of just like Buffy, just like the Vampire Slayer, just like.
Hey,
over.
I sent that.
Oh, you said. I'm sorry about that. I forgot. It was just like Buffy, just over. It's like I was just like, if I had a sex robot, I just set it to that. Just just keep going.
Hey, Nicole, all women are the same to him. I'm sorry. He's a racist, sexist, bigot,
Yeah.
homophobe.
Like just like Asians, they all look the same, right?
Yeah, I just love that
Look like.
on your Captain America t-shirt there, when you're sitting on the right angle in the camera, it actually looks like a Klansman's hood.
Oh hey, we're both doing the superhero thing today.
Here.
I got Batman on.
Oh, okay, nice. Here, there's my clan hood right there. There it is.
Oh my God, you're a Nazi.
Nice.
Well, the Nazis, they took it right from the Democratic playbook, so what do
They
you say?
certainly did.
But anyway, my crazy story is actually going to be a segment tomorrow night on the Tucker Carlson show, and I kid you not, he's
You're on
gonna
Tucker
have,
Carlson?
no, I wish I was on Tucker Carlson, but it's a group that believes selling of pumpkin.
You're lagging out, Harry.
I thought that was me. It's Harry.
No, that's Harry.
Look at him all frozen there.
I know.
Can you guys hear
He
me?
looks
Hello?
he looks so
Yeah.
cute when he's
You're good
frozen.
now.
Can you see me now? Am I good now?
You don't look
All
like
right. All right. Well,
Can you
on
give
the
us a
Tucker Carlson-
Nazi salute to
See, God, okay. That's like three streams in a row now. Everybody's gonna think I am a Nazi. But no, he's gonna have a feminist group on that is claiming that the sales of pumpkin spice lattes support the white supremacist movement. So I really want to see. I really want to see how that goes down. I wonder how they equate the selling of pumpkin spice lattes, how they support the white supremacist movement.
because
I know. Because to make a pumpkin spice latte, you have to use milk, and milk is racist.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This is true.
You see?
And it's, you know what? And another reason I think it's because it's white, rich, snooty girls who only drink them. So-
Exactly.
Hey,
That must-
hey! I'm not snooty.
Oh,
You live in Portland, all right?
all right.
I
Well,
thought we were Chris.
We are, but you're a Nazi.
This is true.
all right, guys. Well, I think that was a great stream. We had Chris Logic Media on. Check him out on Twitter. We also have Nicole. Her name is Insanity on Twitter. Check her out. And this is, again, Swamp Cleaner Harry. This was a good stream. We were talking about same-sex marriage in Australia, and we were talking about the crazy Clinton blame game that's going on with her new book. So I hope you guys enjoying the stream. and we will catch you guys later. Everybody say bye.
Bye.
See you guys.